minasan, welcome back to Our Life Beginning and Always. We're continuing where we left off last time, beginning step 3. I do apologize for the long wait. Multiple things in my personal life have been making this a very, very difficult end of the year. And if you've paid attention to my social media, the last couple days have been even more exciting because we have a new family member, Akari, who has joined us. She's a new baby Cocker Spaniel. She's 2 months old. And she was a Christmas gift to me from one of my friends. And wow, has she changed a lot. I didn't realize because my previous dog, I got at 6 months old. So I have not actually had the puppy experience in years. And it's very different when it's like an actual baby in comparison to a 6-month-old who's just not potty trained. So the difference between that is really kicking me. Luckily, she's very calm, which I think is the saving grace here. If she wasn't calm, we might have a problem. But, obviously, let's get into this. Let's do this like in order. We're just gonna go from left to right. We're gonna do hang and we'll do drive last. You grabbed a large beach towel from off your bed and stuffed it into the bag. You had already packed your water bottle for your upcoming beach hangout session. The stars had aligned and somehow everyone was free today. Miranda had set things up with several bubbly phone calls between you, Cove, and Terry to find time to hit the beach. You were hoping this would be a fun time together. Cove sat on your window sill and kicked one of his legs into the air idly. He'd already had his swimsuit on and his towel was bundled under his arm in a misshapen ball. He'd shown up earlier that morning with a surprising amount of enthusiasm and was chatting as you caught up to his preparation. But seriously, I couldn't find my swimsuit this morning. I looked everywhere and it disappeared. I had no idea what I was gonna do. It completely vanished somehow, just like your old sand pail. You totally didn't just lose your stuff again.
Seriously?
Very funny, Blue, but that was different, and I was 8. Anyway, I don't know why it was in the bathroom when I never put it there. He gave a small smile and readjusted the towel in his arms. You now could see that it had been folded at some point, but then rolled up and carried without much care.
I'm so glad.
But I'm just glad I found it. It would have been crappy to lose my favorite trunks. It was nice to see Cove so happy and comfortable in what he was wearing. You walked over to your dresser and mused about how you had picked out your own swimsuit. Luckily, since you were average height, you only needed to worry about finding the right size. When it came to the shape of your body, you had curves, and you had noticeable muscles. It was clear how solidly you were built, and the dense muscles were visible without having to flex them. You had gained more muscle in recent years. It was clear when compared to how you were when you were younger. Sorry, someone doesn't want to be on my lap.
Are you okay?
You alright? Oh yeah, I was thinking about some things. Girl things you don't need to worry about, Cove. Don't worry about it. Like move along, sweetheart. What things? Just myself? And my body, really? Because I rose at your admission of self-reflection. And what do you think? What do you think of who you were? You considered your identity further. I'm always sure about my gender. Being called her was right for you. And I'm not saying that. Let's go with that. People had a lot of their identity wrapped up in their physical form. It shaped their self-image. We're confident in this. Your body was awesome. It made you capable and assured, and that was wonderful to you. You had pretty much always felt good in your body, and that was the way through your main growing years. And now that you were an adult, you didn't see that changing anytime soon. You focused on Cove again. He smiled at you and tilted his head, a question still in his eyes. He was waiting for you to come to an answer, but before you could, you had something to say to him. You like the way I look, right? You like the way I look, boyfriend. Don't you dare answer this wrong, right? You looked at Cove expectantly. He smirked a little, his eyes taking you in easily. Fishing for compliments, Blue? You look great. Everyone knows that, including you, by the way. Unless that's changed? It hasn't changed, but it does not mean that I'm not going to ask my boyfriend, do I look good? So what if I wanted you to compliment me? You still should. I'm waiting. I said you looked great. You look great. Cove shook his head. I'm also sorry if his glasses changed. I realized I didn't actually save the last part, so I tried to answer the same way I did before, but I don't know if his glasses changed or not, and I'm sorry if they did. Cove shook his head. His hand went up to unsubtly cover his smile. I was kind of worried you were sewing your own head because something was wrong. Guess not. I'm glad. Thank God, Cove. Hey, Blue. Cove gave a bent smile, pointing to your arms. You're looking particularly buff today. Thank you, my dear boy. He answered not with words, but with a solid okay sound with both his hands at the same cheeky smile. Oh, really? Cove suddenly flushed when he realized how boldly he complimented you. He stood by it, even if he was a little red. You were a little taken aback. That came out of nowhere. You glanced at yourself. I didn't know you liked my arms so much. Yeah? You have some very good arms yourself. Cove ducked his head and started to rub his left arm. It seemed that he was much more prepared to rain praise on you than receive it himself. He could barely respond. Thanks. Oh, I already said that, huh? Thanks. Finally, you felt it was enough on that topic for one day. You went back to your original goal before you got sidetracked. You needed to pick what you wanted to wear to the beach. Well, we're just gonna wear a bikini, because that's what I normally wear. While you dug around in your drawers, you tried to think if there was anything else you were missing. Let's take my sunglasses. With that taken care of, you held your outfit together and looked to Cove. He was tapping his toes to the side of the wall as he waited. You vaguely wondered if he thought that was a comfortable place to sit. You hoped so, given how long he'd perched on it. Regardless, it was time for him to go. You weren't going to put on your beachwear with him just chilling there. I need to change. Cove smiled, content with being kicked out. All right. Cove lowered himself off the window and strolled past you to get to the door. He lightly brushed his fingers against your cheek as he passed by.
Bye.
I'll see you up front. Okay. When you were alone, you got undressed and put your swimwear on. You also checked your beach bag for the final time. It seemed like you hadn't forgotten anything. Ah! Sorry. You left your room and hurried down the stairs, ready to meet Cove. You made sure to lock your front door and walked outside. Cove stood on the road, looking down and scuffing his feet on the asphalt. When you shut your heavy door, he looked up at you and smiled. Nice to see you again. Hi, Miranda and Terry are gonna be here in not too long. Terry even texted me earlier saying she was mostly on schedule.
Well,
why don't we just head down to the beach and wait for them there? We're both ready. That sounded like a good idea to you. You said as much, and Cove shot off a quick text telling the two of them where you'd be. Cove gave you a thumbs up after the message sent. It was a familiar path to walk, and it wasn't long until you reached the shore. Cove laid out his towel on the warm sand. You set up your stuff beside him and looked onto the ocean. The rolling swells hit the shore rhythmically. You had all lucked out. It was a beautiful day. The sky was clear and the waves were good. It was a balmy summer day, but with a pleasant breeze to keep things comfortable. Essentially, it was perfect.
so?
Do you feel like heading into the water? Maybe just down the shore? Or would you want to do something else? Either way is fine. What do you want to do? Maybe walk a little at first? Anyway, we can do that then. Cove nodded, accepting the plan. He kicked some sand off his towel absentmindedly. Yeah, sounds nice. You took a deep breath and tasted the relaxing, salty air. Cove caught your eye and gave you a small smile. You chatted a little before a comfortable quiet settled over the two of you, content to watch the waves as you waited for the others. Luckily, it didn't take long before you heard shouts. You turned your head to see both Miranda and Terry running straight towards you. Miranda was faster, making leaps and bounds across the sand. Terry followed in her wake, laughing with her towel clutched around her shoulders, flowing like a cape. Miranda started making her jumps more theatric and more precarious as she got closer. Cove waved them on with a bright grin. Miranda, Terry, it's good to see you guys! The two officially arrived at Cove's and you set up, looking completely ready for an ocean adventure. They were already in their swimwear and were raring to go. Hey, Terry, Miranda, welcome to our beach. Hey, hi! Hello, hello! She beamed and Miranda nodded with a smile.
Oh yeah!
Man, I'm so pumped! Yeah, I'm really glad this worked out! What have you guys been up to over here in your own town, Cove? Blue? Have we missed things? Cove blinked and then shrugged when nothing he wanted to mention came to mind. What have you been up to? Reverse the question!
Oh.
The usual. Terry laughed and mentioned a few things about her own parents. Miranda brought up her family and shared some wild things her older brother had done. Terry then started talking about her morning and how she almost overslept since she stayed up too late last night. She bounced on her feet as she spoke. Oh, but don't worry about being tired today. You know I ran less back during school. Miranda filled in the group on her morning. Apparently everything had gone smoothly. She met up with Terry on the way here and you knew the rest. Cove offered a suggestion to the girls. Hey, let's walk while we catch up. Okay. Oh, definitely. Once everyone's stuff was settled on the beach, the group strolled over to the shoreline. The wet sand was cool under your feet. A wave rushed up and covered your ankles in water. You flinched from the suddenness of it, but the next wave you were acclimated. By the next wave, you were acclimated. You took another step forward and sank a little into the ground. Behind you, your footprints were soon smoothed by the waves. Your friends chatted on as you walked together. You took turns pointing out cool shells or pieces of sea glass. It was a relaxing jaunt. Hours passed and the group had moved between different activities, some low-key, some more exhaustive. For you, it was another break time. You sat on your towel, sipped at some water. Your friends were hard at work burying Terry's full body under a pile. Miranda used her arms to force up sand around Terry's sides, and Cove worked on covering Terry's feet. You took another drink and closed your eyes. Eventually, a shadow passed over you, dampening the light that was still noticeable even behind your eyelids. You checked to see Cove had joined you there. He knelt down to dig around in a pile of assorted beach stuff in the middle of everyone's towel setup and pulled out the sunscreen. He took a seat next to you on his towel. He opened the bottle with a soft pop and began to reapply the cream. Hey! Hey! He ran his hands across his chest to work the sunscreen in. You might have checked him out a little from the corner of your eye while still sipping some water. Oh, slyly! We sly! He noticed you noticing him and Cove tilted his head at your way as a smile formed. Would you want to help me reach my back? Sure, but you're gonna have to do the same for me, buddy. This is a two-way street. I do your back, you do my back. Yes? Thanks. You scooted up behind your boyfriend and reached a hand around his front so he could squeeze a small pile of sunscreen into your hand. You rubbed your palms together, spraying the cream out more evenly, and then began to apply it softly to his shoulder blades. From there, you moved to the tops of his shoulders, the nape of his neck, and down his spine. Cove was mumbling the entire time, but you couldn't make out what he said. He might not have even realized he was doing it himself. The tone of his voice and the look on his face got the message across just fine, however. He was happy you were too. After he and you finished up, Cove let out a comfortable sigh and looked off into the distance. But then he sighed again, this time in an exaggeratingly disappointed way. You wondered if he was going to sigh again, even more dramatically if you didn't say anything. What's wrong? You inspected his face to see if there was anything actually distressed about him. but he still just looked like he was exaggerating. You asked anyway since it was obvious that was what he wanted. Cove shook his head, comedically despondent. His frown didn't match the spark in his eye.
Don't worry about it.
I'm just becoming another jaded adult, that's all. Now you are really confused. You wait for him to continue, and his next sigh did not disappoint. It was the most ridiculously sad sigh you had ever heard. Then he smiled a little. Mermaids aren't real. What? Where? Left field! Where is this coming from? What? That had not been what you were expecting, he continued. You know how much I liked mermaids as a kid. Well, merfolk as a whole. I really hoped that they were out there.
I mean,
the ocean's one big place, right? They could be somewhere. But the older I got, the more I had to accept it. They were just a fairy tale. He jerked his head over to the waterline and the rolling waves. They crashed against the shore, then drew back. This is a perfect beach for them. It's pretty and vast and never too crowded. It still has people, Cove. People would mean that no mermaids would come. I don't know what part of that doesn't get across to you. If merfolk did exist, we definitely would have met one by now. Or at least, we would have definitely heard of someone else seeing one, but nothing. He acted as though the result was a true bafflement. He let his head hang. I gotta let the dream go. That's hardly proof. It's not like this is the only beach in the world. They could still exist. As you said, the ocean is a big place, my dear man. Cove chuckled a little to himself, eyes tilted off into the sea, his face still low. Maybe it's for the best. Let's say a mer person did happen to wash on shore one day. He looked at you with a fox, doleful expression. I could have lost my girlfriend to their magical underwater world. Oh yeah, I totally. If you could come with us. Cove grinned. He hadn't expected that answer. You're a nice person, Blue. What if they didn't want me? Would you seriously stay on land? You gave him a look. You meant what you had said. It'd only work if the offer was for both of you. Are you sure that's the right call? That's absolutely the right call. Stop making me doubt myself, my dear boy. If a beautiful, kind mer person falls for somebody, I'm pretty positive that's the sensible response, isn't to turn around and say, no thanks, I'm gonna stay on land with a normal guy. I should be the mer creature, and then I'd invite you to the underwater. There's no one who could ever make me leave you. Oh, there's like too bad. Oh. Are you warning me that you'd leave if you got that kind of offer? Nah, nobody would make me leave Cove. Mer person or not, we're together. Oh. He flushed and fidgeted on the towel. In a desperate attempt to do something, he picked up the sunscreen bottle he had dropped. Cove started playing with the cap, taking it on and off again. His smile seemed to grow before your eyes. I was just trying to joke around, you know. I know you were, but I wasn't. He giggled and continued to look deliriously happy. He had no way of going back to the joke. You couldn't help but feel happy at how much your words had meant to him. And then you heard Miranda screech. Your attention immediately switched over to your friends. You saw Terry had gotten impatient and shifted her legs. The wall Miranda had meticulously been building collapsed into a wet heap of sand. She surveyed the damage critically. We're gonna have to start over that part. Do you want to just give up on this now?
No way.
No way. The burial must continue. I'll try not to move anymore. Okay. If you're sure, I'll try and fix this. Miranda started to rebury her, and Terry shot her a thumbs up. She realized too late that moving her arm was a bad idea. More of the sand on her crumbled, and Miranda put her head in her hands. Cove caught your eye and started dragging himself up. Seems like we're needed. You agreed and followed him over to the girls. Miranda nodded to you both with appreciation, and the three of you did your best to finish the job. You all worked out a system of using just enough wet sand to help hold up the rest together. With 3 people, it didn't take long for Terry to be entombed. Entombed. She's entombed in the sand. Terry grinned massively and Miranda offered high fives. The pile was officially done. Oh yeah! Resembling the Kool-Aid Man, she kicked herself out of the ground with gutso. Sand went flying in all directions and a Terry-shaped imprint was left behind. Miranda yelled again and Cove chuckled. There probably wasn't a better way to get out of it. The four of you continued to have a good time. You went on a shell hunt. Miranda managed to find the biggest while you found the most colorful. Cove caught a tiny crab. You did a bit of everything. There were impromptu games to just soaking up each other's company. However, after a while, you had all run out of water, drinkable water anyway. It was decided that you'd head over to yours or Cove's house. Things were gathered and you started to cheerfully walk up the road. What next? I don't have anywhere to go, so it could be whatever. Same. I guess we can keep hanging out. Terry snored and readjusted her grip on her things. Don't sound too sure. You don't sound too sure there, Cove. By this point, you could see your house. It hadn't taken you long to make the trip. The conversation continued with everyone throwing out suggestions. Are people hungry? She looked from face to face in inspection. Cove and Miranda shrugged in concert. Concert. I don't know. No one was overly opposed to it. However, you weren't really starving. It wasn't quite a mealtime. We could get dessert. Miranda put a finger to her lips and thought. With a smile, her voice became more confident. Yeah, that would be fun. Terry considered it and then shot Miranda a thumbs up. Sure. Sounds great to me. I can definitely go for that. You know I'm up for it. I'm not leaving Cove with you guys, so I'm always up for it. But there's nothing sweet at my house. Your friends glanced at Cove in his place. He shook his head immediately. Dad doesn't have anything good either. I mean, unless you want dessert-flavored protein shakes. Ew, no! She cut in and held her hands up as if trying to ward off some evil. Cove smirked.
Not bad.
It's not that bad. Nope. Well, there has to be some kind of sweet shop around here. Let's look it up. Terry nodded and then started to dig around in her bag. I like the way you think. Terry continued rummaging in her bag and grew increasingly frustrated as she puffed her cheeks and knelt down, setting the bag on the ground. With both hands free, she was finally able to fish out her phone. She raised it up in triumph for a brief moment of celebration. I'm on it. I'll search for something good. Terry got back to her feet, hefting the bag over one arm, tapping away at her screen in the other. But she assessed Cove from top to bottom. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Cove glanced down at his bare chest and feet, not having even registered it prior. He chuckled a little. I'll grab something. Cove moved over to his house. You looked towards yours. I'm gonna wait outside. We're all gonna be in swimwear anyway. You watched Cove disappear into his house. Terry was deep in the midst of scrolling through food options. You shuffled over to where you could see, and Miranda did the same. There's ice cream. People love ice cream, especially around here. I don't really feel like ice cream. Cool, 'cause I don't either. She flicked a finger up and another ice cream place showed up, melting Momo's frozen treats with an unfortunate cartoon mascot. I like ice cream, it's just not for today. There has to be something else. You thought on it and Terry kept scrolling. You heard a door open and Cove reappeared. You were about to be surprised with how quick he was, but then noticed he'd just thrown a t-shirt on over his swim trunks and slipped a pair of sandals on, of course. Hey! Everyone else exchanged the respective greetings and then looked back at Terry's phone. Terry scrolled down and then made an interested exclamation. Ooh, what about this place? They sell crepes. That's something you don't see every day. Look how fancy they are. She shoved her phone in your face and it seemed like a cute shop. It didn't show any pictures of the actual building, but the food seemed good. It was one of those places that put a lot of effort into presentation with branded wrapping for the crepes and well-applied toppings.
Huh.
Weird. I've never heard of it. I haven't either. Mysterious. But crepes are good. She nodded her approval as Terry admired more of the photos. I'd go. It's not far, but we could drive. Terry cheered at the success of a plan made, and you all walked around Cove's car. He had to run inside to once more to grab his keys. Ira, wash me! The dirt on the car! You noticed a thin coat of sand and dust on Cove's car. It had probably been a while since he washed it. With a smirk, you carefully wrote, "Wash me" with your finger.
Very nifty.
Good work! I wonder if he's even gonna notice. The car beeped and unlocked. Cove ran up to you with his car keys in hands. His hair slipped into his face and he brushed it back. Shotgun! Excusez-moi! Excusez-moi, this is my boyfriend's car. I should get shotgun, Terry. She clambered into the passenger seat without hesitation. You didn't argue and climbed into the back with Miranda. Terry activated the directions on her phone map and acted as their navigator, directing Cove to the crepes. The GPS tried to get Cove to turn into a non-existent route once and wanted him to do a U-turn instead of just using a left turn. But with Terry looking at the actual path, it went smooth enough. You were led into a small stall in a parking lot rather than a full building. That explained why there hadn't been pictures of the crepery's interior and why it was new to you despite living in this town your entire life. It was a completely new structure that popped up recently. There was a window you could walk up to and one for cars to drive up to. Cove parked with a laugh.
Come on.
I don't think I needed to put on a shirt for this, but I still want to try it. Let's go.
What?
Do you not trust us to eat in your car? She gestured to the drive-thru option. Cove shook his head with a snort. I trust some people here, maybe, but wouldn't it be more fun to actually check it out? Everyone acknowledged his point and piled out. Terry tried to tease Cove a little. Blech. But Miranda started talking about the last time she had crepes. Apparently there'd been a dessert explosion topped with multiple sauces, powdered sugar, and what Miranda was pretty sure had to be cake icing. That's sweet.
So great.
Literally, it was so good, but I regretted it so much. I couldn't finish it, and I really tried. You can do it this time, Randy. There was some laughs when you got up to the menu. You realized that there were more than just crepes. There were definitely crepes, many crepes. However, the stall also had a lot of different drinks as well. Teas, smoothies, milkshakes.
Woo!
Jackpot! She grinned and held out her fist for a fist bump. Miranda high-fived it. The two shared an awkward, vaguely turkey-shaped hand configuration they had made and then slowly put their hands down. Cove's mouth twitched in a smile. You stepped up to order first. You glanced back at the menu. Let's order a crepe and a drink. Hello, I'd like to get a crepe and a drink, please. There was a woman who looked a little older than you taking the orders. She smiled back at you, ready to hear the specifics of your purchase. For the crepe itself, you wanted... We're doing chocolate. Filling and toppings. Oh, shoot. I get to choose. Okay, we're gonna do cream cheese, strawberries, caramel, banana, whipped cream, and powdered sugar. Ooh, mixed berries. No, that was it. After you picked the size, you asked what you wanted to drink. You ordered. Let's do a vanilla milkshake to go against that chocolate. You could also add a mix-in or toppings for the drink. Oh my god, there's so much! What is boba pearls to a milkshake? Huh? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Let's add caramel syrup. That was it. You paid and stepped aside to let your friends order. Cove got a lemon crepe with powdered sugar on top and the mixed berries. He also got a plain strawberry smoothie. Terry went crazy with toppings. Although she ordered a plain crepe, she had it smothered with whipped cream, cream cheese, chocolate chips, chocolate syrup, and bananas. Miranda opted for a frap with a caramel syrup and condensed milk. The four of you stood off to the side as you waited for your treats. I heard what you ordered, Blue. Glad I'm not the only one to go for a drink and a crepe. I couldn't pick just one, and why not? Exactly, it's gonna be good. Blue, man, your crepe is gonna rock. High five for topping appreciation. She held her hand out expectantly. High five! You hit her hand with a satisfying smack. Order for Blue! Oh, I've got that! You grabbed your order. The others didn't take much time after that. With the goods collected, everyone admired their treats. Terry dug right into hers, and Miranda gave hers a tentative sip. Terry nodded acceptantly with her mouth completely full. Miranda tilted the frap over to her with a grin. Terry sipped it and clearly loved it. She raised her crepe over to Miranda. You could tell that there was an intent on making it look nice, but with all the assorted toppings piled on, only so much could be done. Miranda took a huge bite with gusto and sighed happily. Terry seemed satisfied and took another slurp of Miranda's drink. They had both only gotten one thing, probably because they knew they'd end up sharing. Cove went over to you, and there was definite interest in his eyes at your order. Well, I just wanted to say you could try mine. It's pretty good and summery. He handed you his crepe first, and you tore off a piece and put it in your mouth. It was tart from the lemon, but the syrupy berry mix brought in the sweetness. The balance between the thin, almost spongy crepe and the juicy topping made for a unique set of textures. You passed him yours, and he tilted his smoothie over. You took a sip and had to suck up a large strawberry chunk before the actual smoothie came up the straw. It was mostly smooth with the delightful tiny crystals of ice and the occasional bit of fresh strawberry. It matched well with the crepe and even more berryness. Cove enjoyed his sampling too. He had a giant smile on his face and looked almost disappointed when you swapped back your treats. With that, Cove started to eat his treats in earnest. You saw him take a huge gulp of his smoothie, and then without swallowing, he added a bite of his lemon crepe. At least he's not as shy about sharing his stuff anymore. And he's not just like throwing away his smoothie because I took a sip of it. His habit of mixing foods together wasn't anything new. He hummed in satisfaction, so you guessed he must have liked the combined flavor. Cove? Terry tore a piece of her crepe and held it out to Cove.
So?
Care to make a trade? Sure. Instead of continuing to loiter in the parking lot, the four of you started to walk down the sidewalk. There was a lot of sharing going on, with crepe bits and toppings being passed around. You wouldn't have been surprised if Terry ended up drinking more frap than Miranda did. You kept going down the way, eating, drinking, and chatting. You hadn't realized just how far the group had wandered until you ended up at the now leaving sign. Apparently, you were just about to walk right out into the middle of nowhere. Oh, wow, see how at the beginning this took like the entire day to get to this point as children, and now as adults it doesn't take any time at all? Obviously, we probably started halfway closer to this than we did originally, but still, it's like a point. Terry took her mouth off of Miranda's straw and stopped sipping the frap. Impossible! Preposterous! How are we already at the end? I always forget how tiny this town really is. Cove chuckled a little and swallowed a chunk of Terry's crepe.
I guess.
It kinda is, huh? It didn't feel that small when we were growing up. It definitely felt bigger then. There was a time when Sunset Bird had felt huge. It seemed as endless as the ocean. There was always some street you hadn't wandered down and something new for the tourist. But now, you had realized it was just a pond in this big, big world. Seeing the definite end only reinforced this. Here was the boundary that proved your hometown could be walked out of with ease. I guess this means we should probably head back. One doesn't just walk into nowhere land. We're not only one, Terry. There's four of us. Terry scrunched her face, not wanting to acknowledge the bad joke. She decided to ignore it. It stinks having to go all the way back. Yeah, but it's not like there's anything out that direction. And if we did keep going forward, it'd be an even longer trip home. You started off into the stretch of road as Cove agreed that he didn't want to go out any further. Can we take a break here first before we turn around? We've been walking for a while and someone finished my drink. Right on cue, Terry loudly sucked air from the straw. It was so good! Miranda looked at her, but Terry remained unrepentant. In the end, though, it was agreed to hang out around the sign before heading back to the car. It didn't take long to finish the rest of the food and drinks. Everyone gathered up the trash and stuffed it into bags and pockets for now. The group relaxed on the grass, keeping account of all the cars they drove past. It was not a high number. 14. The newest passing car drove into town from somewhere outside. But as the vehicle came by, it slowed down and you watched as it ultimately rolled to a complete stop. The black car parked right by the now leaving sign. Everyone exchanged a baffled look. But then the tilted window rolled down and the driver peered out. As soon as you saw his hair, you recognized him. No one else you knew presented themselves so distinctively. Hey, neighbors. Cove also jolted with recognition. He passed on a cordial smile and waved politely. Afterwards, he put his mouth back over the straw of his long, empty drink as if trying to act cool. Hi! You inhaled and tried to be loud enough to account for the distance and the car noises. It's nice to see you again. I feel like I'm doing his voice wrong. What am I doing? Somehow, he was able to project his voice in such a way that it still sounded smooth, even though he was definitely speaking loudly. You wondered where he learned to do that. And you thought about the odd picture this made. A fancy black car pulled over to talk to a group of teens, mostly still in beachwear. Miranda was incredibly confused and shrank back to watch. Terry tilted her head with an unspoken question. Cove made a quick gesture pointing towards Baxter. And a light bulb went off for Terry.
All right.
Ah, that's the new person in the condo, the B-man, right? Yeah, Baxter. Oh, I wasn't sure if I'd actually see him. Her voice was quiet. Miranda usually got shy around new people. Terry was quite the opposite. Incredible! This is perfect! Terry hopped from the grass and ran to Baxter's car, all full of excitement. Behind her, Miranda picked herself up and dusted imaginary dirt off her clothes. She sent a searching look to you and Cove, to which Cove shrugged. Miranda nodded and with clenched fist, hesitantly followed Terry. Terry bent down to talk to Baxter through his window. She blasted through introductions with Miranda putting in a shy wave. Cove looked at you. He still clearly had no intention of going over. Are you seriously gonna sit in the grass? Come on, time to get up and be polite. Cove pouted. His cheeks flared out in a childish puff. I don't wanna. I don't know what to say.
Fine.
You can go. I'll just wait until he's gone. You can survive Baxter for a few minutes, Cove. Do you want to be the only person who doesn't go see him? Well, why can't you stay here with me instead? You sighed. He was definitely going to be difficult about this. Some days he really was that same grouchy 8-year-old that you met all those years ago. I'm physically pushing you. Not willing to mess around anymore, you strode over behind him and used both hands to force him up and over to the car.
Come on.
No, Blue! Cove put up a meager wall of resistance but got to his feet. He didn't want to keep being poked at. Slowly, progress forward was made until the two of you arrived at the driver's side window. Baxter smiled welcomingly. Hello. Hey. Cove greeted him mildly, his expression cautious. Sup? Baxter gestured to Miranda and Terry. I just rented this car for my stay here and was coming back from a bit of sightseeing when I spotted your crowd. Then these two were kindly introducing themselves.
Uh-huh.
Yep, it's only polite. Speaking of polite, Baxter is giving us a ride. I was asking him to. What? Baxter shrugged guiltily, seeing Cove's dramatic reaction. The offer is open. And we're taking it. Okay. Regardless of anything else, you didn't have to walk back. That's what counted, and you were grateful to Terry for arranging it. Alrighty, plan made. Let's hop in. You excitedly opened the passenger side door and buckled yourself in. The car was pristine, and you were right near the new car-scented air freshener. Baxter had the air conditioner on cold, but low, so it was pleasantly cold inside. A nice relief from the summer sun you'd been baking in all day. Your friends clambered on in the back. It definitely seemed like the slightest bit squished back there.
Does that sound alright?
Oh my god, okay, hi Baxter. That voice right in my ear, oh my god. Welcome to my vehicle. I hope everyone is comfortable. And if someone could point me in the right direction, we can be on our way. You began to explain where you had come from. It was pretty easy to direct him straight down the road and one turn into the parking lot. Baxter nodded from up in the driver's seat and pulled back onto the road. Luckily, the street was still dead empty. It took no time at all for Baxter to park right next to Cove's car. There wasn't even enough time for a proper conversation to start. The occupants didn't seem to mind. There were smiles all around when Baxter parked next to Cove's car. Woo! Miranda clapped quietly as Terry cheered. Cove chuckled nervously. I'm gonna nudge you in a friendly way. You leaned over the divider and gave Baxter a light-hearted push on the shoulder. He hadn't been expecting it, but quickly laughed and smiled at you. The celebration seemed to amuse him. We've arrived. That was easy. Where's my Staples button? That was easy! Terry flung open her door and climbed out.
Thanks.
Well, I'm not good. She said it for me. Everyone else exited the car as well. The group thanked Baxter with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Baxter himself got out too. Everyone congregated again in front of Baxter and Cove's cars. Cove looked at the back of his and frowned. He finally discovered the wash me you put on it. I wonder who did that. You snickered along with Miranda, who realized you'd been caught.
Ooh.
It's a mystery. Right. Terry bounced over to Baxter and offered her hand for a handshake. He accepted it easily with a charming grin. You're a pal. You're too kind. It was no trouble whatsoever. I'll be keeping this car all summer. If it suits you, you're welcome to take my number and give me a ring whenever you're in need of another ride. And that goes for everyone here. I have a car. Cove's just like, no, you are flirty. I don't want to be near flirty. Terry busted into laughter and Miranda fidgeted. She did not know what to do with that. Baxter really went fast, didn't he? He noticed her discomfort and smiled with a soft tilt of his head. I'd be happy to help again. But that's the only reason I offered. If you don't need it, you can pass on it. Can I have your number? Let's go for it. Let's be welcoming. He beamed widely at your response.
Absolutely.
Oh, you answered for me. I don't need to answer that question. Baxter pulled out a pen he had with him for some reason and jotted his number down. He passed the little paper on to you and you accepted. With her giggles subsided, Terry put a hand on her chin with brows furrowed. I wonder, would that option be available right now? You could valet us somewhere cool.
What?
Excusez-moi? What are you talking about, Terry? What are you trying to do, Terry? Cove was taken aback. He put a hand on the hood of his car. Weren't we going back to the neighborhood? Wasn't Baxter going back to the neighborhood too? Well, why would we go somewhere else? Because we can? Because we can is not always the answer, Terry. That is not always how you respond. Miranda squirmed nervously and then committed to piping up.
Maybe?
We could go to the park near my place? It's a really nice place to hang out. You and Cove shared a look. The big park was pretty nice. Let's do it! Baxter tapped the side of his face and thought.
It's doable.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even need to say his lines. He glanced at Cove, then switched focus to you.
Well,
We have 2 cars. If some people want to go to the park, I could still take the others home. But if everyone's going, it wouldn't make sense for me not to. I feel like he's not going to go to the park. Or is he? You weren't ready to tag out yet. You came to a decision and turned to Cove. Let's go to the park. All right, park time it is. He smiled a little, Terry cheered, and Miranda nodded happily. You felt like you had made a good decision.
Yeah!
To the car! Again! Yeah, whatever car that might be! You gestured at Cove and then to Baxter, seeing who would volunteer. Cove sighed and ran a hand through his hair. He tapped on his car's hood nervously.
I guess.
We can go in Baxter's, I guess. It'll be a less of a pain than bringing both. We're all going to the same place. Are you okay with that, Baxter? Certainly. I meant what I said. When you need a lift, I can give it. Neither you nor Terry brought up any objections, and so the gang climbed back into Baxter's nice ride. This time, Baxter offered to turn on some music. After all, it would be a little bit of a drive to the park. Play what you normally would. Don't mind us. Yeah, I'd like to see what kind of stuff a guy like you's into. I hope the playlist lives up to your expectations. He plugged his phone into the car with an aux cord and turned on some alternative music. With music taken care of, Baxter put the car in drive and pulled out of the parking lot. The lot was practically empty, but you noticed that he was careful anyway. During the trip, it changed to hard rock, punk, and even screamo. What the hell kind of playlist is this? Despite his personable demeanor, he didn't seem to like upbeat tracks. It took a while to arrive. By the time you got there, the sky was golden with orange streaks of sunset. Everyone got out of the car and started to stroll along one of the paths. You walked by the basketball court and some picnic tables, taking in the sights. Miranda seemed amazingly content, the location helping her relax in company. She led the way, sometimes stopping here or there to point something out. Baxter turned to her and nodded along.
Not bad.
I've never been here before, but I definitely see the appeal. Man, this is Randy's stomping grounds. She's been coming here forever. Seriously, Miranda, have you ever had a birthday party that wasn't here? You missed out, Baxter, because every year she has a blowout party at the park. Imagine, balloons everywhere. Miranda looked down, suddenly shy again with the attention on her. She let out an awkward sigh. She let out an awkward laugh. Yep, every year. Actually, my birthday is where I first started to really get to know Cove and Blue. She smiled and pointed to a wide, flat spot on the grass. Remember the bounce house? Remember the bounce house? I remember. He chuckled and you could practically see those old memories on his face. It was a party for the ages. You were great. It was a blast. It was a blast. The group followed Miranda along to one of the picnic tables. She took a seat and Terry slid in beside her. You spent an evening chatting amongst each other. Everyone got to know Baxter a little better, although you could tell Cove and him still hadn't fully clicked. At one point, Miranda found an abandoned soccer ball and started tossing it around. To me! Miranda threw the ball at her and Terry caught it with a smile. Think fast! She chucked it at Baxter, who had only had enough time to squeak. It bounced off his chest and he stared at it, dazed. He blinked as if he needed time to process what exactly had happened, but then grinned dangerously. Oh shoot, What's gonna happen? He rushed up to the ball, and rather than throwing it back, he surprised Terry and everybody else by lobbing the ball high into the air. You bent your neck back to watch as it ascended and the inevitable decline. Baxter hooked it with his foot and launched it up again. There were oohs and ahs from Terry and Miranda. Baxter gave them a proper bow. When it finally fell to the ground for real, Cove was the one who picked it up. He was impressed and he wanted in. With that, everyone was drawn into the game. It was an unspoken that whoever did the fanciest trick won. Most of the gang was not particularly practiced with throwing a ball, so not many of the tricks were actually good. However, there was a lot of laughter, and you got to see Miranda pull off a round off where she threw the ball with her feet, so that was cool. The sunset eventually darkened into night, and the streetlights turned on. Your group's chosen picnic table laid in a bubble of light. The occasional bug cast a shadow as they flew by. It's a little strange being here so late on a normal night. Usually that only happens if there was a party, or an important game, or a fireworks show. Fireworks? Her yell startled Baxter, who was throwing the ball nonchalantly from hand to hand. He missed catching it, and it sailed sadly back onto the ground. You looked at Terry for her loud outburst. I just remembered there's going to be a fireworks show tonight. It's in the city. At everyone's questioning looks, she huffed and tried to explain further. It's some celebration for the opening of something. I don't remember what. I don't think we could get into the actual event anyways.
Oh, yeah.
But we should still be able to see the show if we get close. You can keep the explosions in the sky. You can't keep explosions in the sky away from the public. No, you can't. You really can't. You want fireworks? They're gonna be everywhere. Unless you're Disney. You can apparently ignore it from Disney because you're gonna be far enough away from Disney World if you're not on property. Cove raised an eyebrow and drummed his fingers on the table below him. You want to change locations again? Wasn't the last 2 times enough? Terry rolled her eyes and then shook her head. To her, it was obvious. Don't be a wet blanket, Cove. What about you, Blue? Randy? Baxter? Don't you want to see some fireworks? It's fireworks, we gotta go. I guess they are fireworks. Alright, whatever. What's one more scene change? Yeesh! I knew this was a good idea. In turns, 4 sets of eyes looked to Baxter. As the driver, his answer made or broke the plan. He chuckled softly. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll go.
Honestly.
Genuinely, there's nothing better to occupy my time tonight. We better hurry or we might miss it. Cove rolled his eyes but laughed. Everyone headed back to the car yet again. Terry brought out her phone to navigate to the city, and Baxter stepped on the gas. You were on your way. Baxter drove past buildings aglow in warm yellow light that cut through the navy black night. One office building had bright LED lights that cycled through a whole rainbow of hues. It was difficult to get through all the traffic on the road, let alone find parking this late at night. Luckily, Miranda had eagle eyes when it came to scoping out a spot. She pointed to a sedan pulling out, and Baxter parked within seconds. Not wanting to miss the show, you all raced down to the waterfront walkway to find a place with a good view. What about here? Cove peered across the rails and into the distance and shot her a thumbs up. It was relatively quiet, isolated, and you could see skyscrapers. That was a good sign based on where Terry thought the event was. Yes, this should work fine. She stopped and tried to catch her breath. Her hands on her knees, Miranda leaned against the wall between establishments as she recovered. Cove took a moment to breathe in as well, stretching his spine back. He looked up at the sky in wonder and let out a relieved sigh. Think we've missed anything?
No way.
Not a chance. Nothing's happening, and we can't be so late that we've missed everything. Maybe it'll start soon. I feel excited. The spontaneity of the whole thing, combined with the amazement of fireworks, was a recipe for you to be bursting with anticipation. It couldn't start soon enough. Terry led Miranda to sit down at the oval slabs along the path. Miranda took a seat and began tapping her knees together as she waited. Terry, meanwhile, crouched more than sat. Baxter smiled politely and looked from you to Cove. He seemed to be waiting for one of you to speak rather than waiting to directly start a conversation. Da-da-da-dots, da-da-da-dots. Oh my God, it's a da-da-da conversation. I don't know what to say, but the music is moving and I got nothing to say. Da-da-da. I don't know why I'm singing da-da-da. Something seemed to strike Cove as he tried unsuccessfully to hide a smile. We're all still in swimsuits. Wearing beachwear in the middle of the city in the dark while waiting for a fireworks show was clearly the joke of the day for him. Cove snorted once and then looked back up at the sky. But I'm not sure if this tops that one night you went around town with me and Mom dressed in my pajamas. You laughed too when you remembered the incident. It had been quite an escapade. Very much an escapade. That sounds like a story I'd be interested in hearing. Cove looked to him and then you, shaking his head slightly. That kind of is the story. There is so much else to say. Don't you dare go there, Cove! You weren't entirely sure about that, but Cove wasn't ready to start reminiscing with Baxter.
So...
Well, I wish I had gotten the memo of tonight's dress code. I could have suited myself to fit. He tugged on his shirt sleeve with a faint grin, going for humor. He definitely was overdressed when you compared him to the rest of you. It succeeded in making Cove smile. Sorry. A flash lit up the sky with a brilliant green. Your eyes flew off the building and into the distance, and silently watched with bated breath. You heard a second boom and a red firework lit up the night. Whoa, the show's starting! It's so pretty! They came running over to get closer, positively beaming. Terry pressed herself to the waterfront fence, getting as close as physically possible without going swimming again. More fireworks went off, shooting out hundreds of tiny sparkling lights. The colors stood out starkly against the dark of the night. The biggest ones washed your surroundings with their hue, turning your world blue, then red, then golden.
Welcome.
Did I deliver or did I deliver? Miranda's eyes glittered as she lightly bumped Terry with her hip. Good job! Terry stumbled at the friendly nudge but that was pleased with the compliment. She grinned back. Miranda lightly swung her hips the opposite way to give you a bump as well. It was friendly and soft. Woo! We did it! You gave her a little push and turn with a laugh. Let's say everyone having a good time. Cove stared up at the sky with wonder while Terry squealed in joy after a series of especially grand explosions. Miranda pointed to the one that was shooting up and then gasped when it bloomed and turned into a huge sphere of violet light. Baxter smiled in appreciation. It was good to see your friends in high spirits. The rest of the group huddled around the railing to take in the show as closely as possible. Miranda stood close by, Terry's hands gripped to the top. Cove laid his arms across it while leaning forward, and Baxter rested his elbows on the rail, putting his back towards the fireworks. He seemed to have more fun watching the others than the actual show. Ooh! She pointed out the golden firework and beamed. That's so cool! Terry held up a hand for a high five, and Miranda obligated her. Terry whooped and shot you a smile. What color do you think the next one will be? Without giving Baxter a glance, Cove answered immediately. Green! 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 It was orange. Baxter chuckled, but wasn't interested in calling Cove out for being wrong. Is that your favorite color? Green? It's one of them? Oh, you poor boy. I think that's nice. It matches you. And is yours black? That's one of them. Cove smirked just a little and left the conversation there. Oh, I get to choose. Oh, no, I get to choose? That's not good. Oh, what do I choose? The game is we're getting to know Cove, so I feel like we should stand next to Cove. Cove looked away from the fireworks and grinned at you. He was glad to be spending time with you and tilted his head at the spectacular multicolored firework above. I think that's been my favorite so far. He shot you another look and nodded, wanting you to move up closer in front of him. You could see the night lights reflected on the water. You took a moment to watch him and the fireworks reflected in his eyes. Cove grinned like a kid. You pressed yourself against his chest and snuggled into him. He readjusted his position, then wrapped his arms around you, holding you close. He rested his chin on top of your head comfortably. You let yourself relax against him and continue to watch the fireworks above. Cove's gaze drifted from the show of dazzling lights straight at you, and he sighed dreamily. You didn't know when you'd last seen him so blissful. The spectacle continued to up the ante by bringing more fireworks out at a time. The colors danced across the sky and reflected over the water. You reached out a hand and watched as it was tinted green while a big boom sounded. Fireworks were a normal summer tradition, but this was admittedly an unconventional approach. Showing up in the city last minute to watch a display from a technically private event, that made it feel special in a way that just planning to go to a public fireworks show never would. Carrie's idea may not have left you with a lot of time to prepare, but it sure led to a unique situation. It was clear that this was an unforgettable night. As the finale sounded, blazing the sky with an unbelievable beauty, you remembered thinking that there might never be a night exactly like this one again, not for the rest of your life. You planned to hold on to the feelings you had in the moment for as long as you could. And there we go, everybody! Thank you so much for joining me as we continue to work our way through Our Life Beginning and Always. Obviously, I hope to get another episode out tomorrow, and hopefully just finish this off before the new year. I will be doing a 5,000 subscriber stream. It will be a combination stream with the New Year's stream, and I'm gonna see if I can find some people to do a voice call with me, because that was really fun when I did that for the Resident Evil video. And I still don't know what game we're gonna play, so that's gonna be something I think about during the week. I might put a poll up on the channel to see what you guys would like to see. We're still gonna figure it out, obviously. I play different games at New Year's than normal, but I also realized that if I'm making this the 5,000 subscriber special, we might just be continuing Back to the Future the game, because that's my subscriber special game, because it's my favorite thing in the world. But anyway, guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks so much for watching these videos. I'll catch you all on the flip side, and bye-bye.